Welcome back to another episode of the Braun Performance and Rehab Podcast. Joining me today is Josie Hollamon. Josie is an absolute stud athlete who I've had the pleasure of getting to know over the past several years. Josie and I are going to dive into her backstory behind field hockey, and we kind of talk about the lessons that she's learned along the way and how you can apply them, especially if you're a field hockey athlete yourself or you're a part of what we reference as the next generation of field hockey, different lessons that you can apply to the way that you practice and train and approach the game and so much more. Josie is an absolutely incredible athlete, and I'm so excited that we were able to have her on the podcast today. I highly recommend giving her a follow on Instagram and checking out all the amazing things that her and her teammates at Maryland are doing. Episodes like this are made possible by our sponsor, ISOFIT. ISOFIT is my go-to for all things isometric strength training and can help you and your athletes to win more and hurt less. For more on ISOFIT, you can check the description below. Josie, welcome to the podcast. I'm super excited to work with you today. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
For people who might not be familiar with you and all the incredible things that you're doing in the field hockey space, would you mind filling them in a little bit about who you are and all that you have going on right now?
I go to the University of Maryland and I play field hockey there. I'm currently in Charlotte, North Carolina right now, training with the USA Women's National Field Hockey Team. And I'm helping them kind of prepare for Paris and get the day-to-day of like how they prepare and like how they're going to go into Paris and do. And then I'm also on the US U21 team where we have a camp coming up starting Thursday. And I'll be going to Canada to participate in the Junior Pan American Cup, where we try to qualify for the Junior World Cup. So we'll be playing teams like Argentina, Chile, Uruguay, Canada, and all of them, so we can hopefully go to the next stage.
That's freaking amazing. I mean, you are literally, at nearly the top of the ladder as far as field hockey goes. You're playing D1, you're, making it on the U21 national team. You're traveling all over the world to play field hockey. And there's so many people that I've had the privilege of talking with over the past several years who they want that for themselves. They want to make it. They want to get the D1 offers. They want to get on, the quote unquote big stage, for lack of a better way to put it. But I find a lot of them get unmotivated or discouraged along the way because they're like, well, I'm just from a small town, or I don't have these opportunities, or all these other kids, they're just better than me. And they kind of lose sight of their goal along the way. But I found that you're someone who just didn't let that happen to you, right? Because I'm pretty sure you grew up in like middle of nowhere, Delaware.
Yeah, I grew up in Delmar, Delaware. So kind of small school, or really small school. Don't have that much money. We played on grass. A lot of schools play on turf and AstroTurf and all that. So yeah, I didn't let coming from like a small area, small town kind of discourage me. I honestly think it helped me because the community around me was so like important and they supported me so much. So shout out to Delmar for getting me where I'm at now. They were definitely a big stepping stone there.
Yeah, no, definitely. Walk me through this whole process. How did we get from Delmar, Delaware, small town USA, all the way up to where we are now, where we're traveling the world to play field hockey? Walk me through that whole journey, if you could.
Yeah, so even though I played field hockey at Delmar, there was always like a USA pipeline in there. So it first started off as futures, and you would train with your region, and there would be selectors there who would then pick you to go to the next level, where you would play in a big tournament with all of the other people who were selected from the region. And from there, you could get picked to play on like a national team. So when I was U14, I got picked to go to that tournament. And from there, I got asked to try out for the U16 national team, and then kept going U18. And then once I was about 17 years old, I was playing in a tournament called Senior Nexus, and that's when you played with people on the women's national team and who are in college, even though I was still in high school. And from there, they watched me play and they saw me, and I got a call the next day coming home from the tournament asking me to be on the women's national team. And of course, I mean, this was my dream like forever, and I was in like complete shock. And next thing you know, I'm like just won a state championship, and I'm going and I'm training with the national team and playing in Argentina. And it honestly all happened so fast. And after going to Argentina, I was able to try out for U21 and make that team along with being on the women's team. So it's definitely like a hard process to kind of understand because it's a little different because you can still be younger and get picked to play on like bigger age groups, or like I could be 17 playing U21, all of that. But honestly, it's from going and showing up at the tournaments, working really hard and playing my hockey and just be calm out there.
I was going to say, I'd imagine that was a pretty surreal moment for you driving back and then getting that call. That must have been absolutely incredible. And it sounds like this is something that you've been involved with for a very long time. Like, it's almost like you were like born with a stick in your hand or something like that.
I was in fact. My mom was a field hockey player. She played at University of Delaware. My aunt's field hockey player, played at University of Delaware. My grandmother, my cousins, my sister, we all play field hockey. So I was definitely born with a stick in my hand. So I'm very grateful to my family for bringing this sport into my life. And without them, I don't know where I would be. But I definitely had a lot of role models around me who played the sport and introduced me to the game so I could be where I'm at today.
And I think having that support system around yourself is absolutely essential because I didn't know you at this point, but I'm trying to picture, like 14 or 15-year-old Josie going to the first, like, big, like, tryout for like a national team thing. And I'd imagine it's probably a little bit nerve-wracking at the time. You're probably like shaking a little bit like, oh my gosh, is this really happening? Like, do I have this? Do I have it in me? What if it goes well? What if it doesn't go well? Like, I feel like your mind gets going a million miles an hour if you're not used to these things at first.
Yeah, definitely when I was younger, it was more like, okay, I just got invited to this next stage where I could possibly make like a U16 national team, and I'm 14, 15 years old. Like, okay, like I don't really know what goes on from here. I'm not like where I'm from isn't like a big field hockey, like USA field hockey kind of like area. We do well in high school. We win state championships, but like not really, no one else has gone to the next level and played USA field hockey. So it was like, oh, okay, like, so I'm surrounded by the best people in the country. Like, and now it's time to compete. And like, I was definitely really nervous at first because there's like girls around me who are better than me. So it just, kind of pushed me to go to like the next level and try to like match their level of like hockeyness. But I kind of like, I didn't really know what to expect when I first showed up, but they definitely welcomed me with open arms, and I was able to kind of get the experience from U16 to then U18 to now like playing at the like biggest stage, hopefully more to come.
That's incredible. And so as far as we know, you're the first one from the area you grew up in to make it this far, correct?
I mean, I think from Delmar, I think I'm the first one to. Me and Macy and Jordan are like the first three to kind of do US stuff. Maybe Haley Bitter's a little bit in there, but I'm pretty sure we're the first ones to ever like make a national team.
Yeah, so really paving a path forward for the next generation, so to speak. And I think it's important how you brought up, like, it was a very welcoming environment because I think a lot of times people get into these situations and they think it's really going to be like a toxic kind of thing where everyone's so competitive and, pushing people down and that sort of thing. But, at least the way I think and the way my mind works, I think everyone gets better if everyone wins, right? Like, if we lift everyone up, then we're all going to be better, not just one person. There's a saying that rising tides are going to raise all the ships in the water, so to speak. And I think that really holds true here is as we push one another, they get better and we get better ourselves. And I like to hear the fact that that was kind of the experience that you had at this higher level of field hockey that way, because I feel like having that kind of environment and culture, for lack of a better way to put it, is essential to, helping people up their own game, but also growing the game, because from what I've come to understand, this is pretty new in the United States and we don't quite have field hockey established like some of these other countries might.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely don't get the recognition we kind of deserve as field hockey athletes. And I mean, we don't have crazy amount of coverage like football games or basketball games, but I feel like in women's sports now we're getting there, and the Big Ten covers our games. There's still people when like you're on the airplane going to a tournament and they're like, oh, you play sport, like what sport do you play? And you're like, field hockey, and they're like, oh, I'm not really sure what that is. So we're definitely a little bit behind in that area compared to other countries. But I feel like if people started to watch the game and like understand like how like important it is and like how much we go through and like put our bodies through to play this sport, I feel like we would get the respect we deserve. But it's getting there and it's getting better. So I'm excited to see what the future holds at least.
Yeah, no, I think that's such a great point too, is like the sport itself is so unique and so demanding. I didn't realize that you could only use one side of the stick for the longest time. I feel like that makes it exponentially harder.
Yeah.
But you factor in the conditioning element, plus the overall strength element, plus the like ability to stay in that position that you all have to like dribble the ball in for such a
Yeah.
long time. Like I think I would tap out after like 2-3 minutes, maybe, if that. So I give y'all a lot of credit because it does not look easy. I can't even wrap my head around the rule book right now. Like I feel like the whistle gets blown quite a bit and I can't figure out why.
Yeah, it
So
does.
I feel like there's quite a learning curve here and quite a unique physical demand. And it's something where I think that the more we learn about the sport, the better we are to provide for the athletes that are in it. And I think that's where conversations with people like you are essential. You're saying a little bit ago about the U16 experience and kind of quote unquote making it for the first time. How did it go as you kind of, for lack of a better way to put it, got to the next level, made the U18 team? What was that transition like for you from like U16 to U18? How did that go? Walk me through that a little bit.
It's definitely every year there's going to be the same girls, but then there's also new girls who are coming in who have that same like high level of hockey and are willing to compete and work really hard. So every selection camp, you need to be on your toes, ready to go. You never know what's going to happen. So I feel like that has definitely shaped me into the person I am today, because every single time I go and I wear the USA jersey or I'm going and representing them at a camp, like every person there is going to work extremely hard and we're going to compete for a spot because you have to, because you never know who's coming up behind you. So the transition was definitely easier because I knew what to kind of expect now, like with camps and everything, but still you have to be like ready to go. You never know what's going to change like during training, or if you're going to have to just stop and run, or if you're going to play the entire time, if you're going to do some skill work. But it definitely, now being on like the U21 team, it's culture is so important now, and that's like a big stepping stone to like how we play our game, not just like playing field hockey. So I've really liked how it's like each age group we've gone and like have come together more as like a team to kind of figure out our culture and what we want to represent the USA with.
Yeah, no, I think that's spectacular. I mean, I think the concept of bringing a team together over a long period of time and letting people grow together, also kind of figuring out how you all best work together on and off the field. Because while I'm sure people always get captivated by the on-field stuff, like the amazing passes, the amazing shots, and that sort of thing, I would imagine there's a whole lot more work that goes into it off the field, not just from a training standpoint, but from like an overall mental preparation and so on that way. And I think that side of the game is probably often overlooked.
Yeah, I would agree 100%. I mean, it's definitely hard because you could show up to a selection camp and be getting really close with your teammates and playing together and figuring it out. And then the next camp, you could be cut and you're not at it. So we've kind of experienced that a little bit with this camp. We like made our travel roster and now we still have like we want our whole team to come and like help us train. So it's just like you have to be mentally strong in this process because you need to support your teammates, even though you might not be able to go with them to the tournament or wherever you're going. But it's also like you never know what's going to happen. So you always have to like have that like mentally in your mind that like I could be here one day and the next I could be gone. So it was really, I got to experience kind of like the mental side of it when we were at the Junior World Cup in Chile, because we had just played our college seasons from August to November, late November, and we had like a week to go home, and then we were off to Chile to play in the Junior World Cup. So that's also difficult, like not being able to train with like your team for like months on end because you're all participating in your college season and then coming back together after you're like mentally drained from your college season to then play at the international level, which is heads and shoulders above the level of the collegiate. So that part was a little bit difficult, but I felt like because we were so close knit and our culture was there, we were able to kind of figure it out and mentally like be okay.
That's such an interesting point. I didn't even think about that. The concept of like I have to have like my team hat on for like college field hockey, but then I have to have my team hat on for national field hockey. And, I'd imagine most of those girls are different. You probably don't have a national roster made up of all the same girls at college, probably
Yeah.
different coaching, different training, and so on that way, and maybe even different play style as well. So almost having to have that ability to wear two different hats simultaneously and swap back and forth between the two.
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, this year it's gotten a little bit better where we've tried to or like in the spring we've tried to have like training camps every month. But before that, we don't like really see each other and get to train with each other every day like some of the countries do. So that's a little bit difficult to try to manage because during season we were trying to watch film of like other countries while we're also watching film of like the next school that we're going to play. So you definitely have to be in it and willing to like be 100% committed to the team.
Yeah, definitely. And you mentioned a little bit ago about how this can be, stressful. There's a lot to take in, and you really have to be, on your A game, so to speak, to handle all of this. I mean, you said it yourself, you get a little mentally exhausted at the end of the year, from a like college ball standpoint, and now you've got to pick up and go right to international play or national team stuff and that sort of thing. How do you go about like cultivating that like mindfulness or proper mindset or self-care? I don't know what the right term is, but how do you go about like taking care of yourself so when that time does come around, you're like ready to rock?
Yeah. What always like kind of comes to my mind when like I feel like I'm mentally exhausted is like just my dream of wanting to play at the Olympics. Like this is a stepping stone to my future end goal, and hopefully I can achieve it one day, is going to the Olympics. So our U21 goal right now is to win a gold medal at the Olympics. And that is like what we all try to like ground ourselves with when we're trying to go and like compete at like the next level or next international tournament. And then also just surrounding myself with people who are willing to sacrifice anything for like our team. And my family is also important too, to kind of like if I'm down, I need to reach out to my mom or my sister or my dad and kind of get their words and feel like I'm at home, but I'm not at home. But just kind of like the mental cues, like in my head, just like I'm here because I want to be here. I'm here because I have an end goal and I love this team and I love representing USA. So
I think it's so important you brought up the concept of just you have that end goal and you have a common shared goal amongst the rest of your team as well. And I think that's something that can really unite a team and bring everyone together. And I think that's something too for, anyone listening who's kind of in what I'll call the next generation of field hockey, so to speak, like have those goals, like set those goals early on and don't waver from them. Think about them regularly, write them down, make an accountability person, whether that's your family, like you mentioned, or, a training partner, friend that way, whatever it is, just like have some sense of direction for where you're going and why you're doing the things that you're doing. I think that deeper sense of purpose really has a ton of impact and meaning. And it always amazes me, when I talk with people about where they want to end up, how a lot of people don't have that goal or they don't have that sense of where they're going to end up. And it usually creates a system of frustration where, because we don't know where we're going, we go this way, then we go that way, and then we go another direction. And we end up just kind of getting frustrated because we don't know where we're going. So we go everywhere and get nowhere, for lack of a better way to put it.
yeah, I think for me, just setting goals, long-term and short-term goals, were extremely like important in like the beginning of the year. Like whether I was setting a short-term goal with like Maryland of winning a Big Ten championship, and then setting a long-term goal with my U21 team of hopefully winning a gold medal at the Olympics. But like even just setting like those goals for like day-to-day like activities, whether that's like I need to study for an hour or two a day. Like when I'm in school, it's like there's definitely different goals from when I'm like here for the summer, where I'm going to set a goal. I need to do my run and my lift every day for the next however many months. And I just think for me personally, it's like writing those down and then doing everything you possibly can to achieve them.
Yeah, I love that point. Having them at the forefront of your mind. And you mentioned, work ethic and hard work and doing everything you can multiple times. And I think that's another thing that's probably gone unnoticed for you is I have a feeling that you've put thousands and thousands of hours into getting here. And that's something that probably didn't get recognized by many people. Not many people probably saw those training sessions or the extra conditioning and extra workouts and that sort of thing that you put into getting here. But what was the time commitment, or what was the amount of work that you had to put in to get here? You know, was it enough? Was it too much? Do you feel like it could have been achieved with less? Or, you know, how does that overall like drive and work ethic play into getting you to where you're at today?
Yeah, I feel like for me, a lot of it was like self-motivated, but also like my family motivated me to go out and compete every day. But there were times where I felt like I didn't get enough out of practice, high school practice, so then I would go home and kind of train on my own. And because I always had like an end goal in mind. So like I felt like I put in a lot of work, and I don't think you need to put in less. I think you need to put in the maximum amount of work that you possibly can to achieve your goals. But there were a lot of times where I was like, okay, like I need to like keep going. I need to keep going. But then I also realized like recovery is like extremely important, because every day for me, it was like, I need to do this, that extra so I can, achieve that end goal. And when I go and train with the women's national team, I'm not behind with my fitness or with my level, because there are times when you could be training at school and you're not like getting as much running in as they do, because they run and they're fit and they're conditioned 10 times more than I probably am. So there was like always in the back of my mind, like during the spring season, I would wake up early in the morning, go run, go to class, then we'd have training and meetings and lift and all that. So I was always trying to like kind of be at their level, because that's where I want to be in the future. So I feel like I didn't have to put in less work. I can still put in more work, but definitely a lot of work has been put in, and a lot of perseverance and just support from like others around me, whether it's my teammates or my family that knows like I'm putting in that work. And they also remind me like, yeah, you're putting in the work, but you need to take a break every once in a while and kind of, maybe have an off day, just kind of chill out for a little bit. Because if not, I'll just go every single day like as hard as I possibly can, and then I'll get mentally and physically exhausted. And there was a few times where I did experience just like being extremely exhausted, because I did not give my body a break in the recovery that it needed. So I feel like that's like really important to kind of like share with like people who are really trying to achieve their goals, that like it's okay to take 1 out of the 7 days that you're working out off, because if not, you're just gonna like run yourself to the ground.
You and I have never had this discussion before, have we? About like, hey, maybe a day off would be a good thing.
I think a few people have had this discussion with me, but sometimes it just doesn't kind of sync up in here.
Yeah, no, I get it. And I want to emphasize your point on you have to do the work. You don't get good at things by just sitting around thinking about it or dreaming about it or being passive with it. Like you have to put your time in. It's true with anything that we do. I don't care if it's field hockey in sport or if it's what you're studying in school, or, if you're out there, working at something. Like you don't get good at it unless you actually do the work. And I think a lot of times people shy away from doing the work, or they do the same work that everyone else is doing and expect that that's going to somehow get them ahead. But you can't do the same thing over and over again and expect a different result. You have to actually go above and beyond if you're someone who wants to soar above and beyond. So I
Mhm.
certainly think that concept of doing the extra things and sweating the small stuff is essential, right? We've had the pleasure of talking with some different athletes in the past on the podcast who have made it to the NFL and different professional sports that way. And they all talk about the importance of every little thing, from going above and beyond in training to going above and beyond from a recovery standpoint to their sleep, to their nutrition, and so on that way. And everything gets so dialed in. And it's like, if you want to be part of that, 0.1% that makes it this far, you kind of have to do what that 0.1% does.
Mhm.
On your point on the rest, sometimes I do think there is addition by subtraction, right? Sometimes we actually scale back a little bit and give ourselves a chance to rest, a chance to recover, a chance to rebuild. And that allows us to push a little bit harder the next day. Maybe we can run a little bit faster. Maybe we're a little bit more mentally engaged or whatever it is. So I love that concept of, hey, just because we're pushing really hard the majority of the time doesn't mean we can't, still step back every once in a while and like take a day and sleep and recover, because that makes those other sessions that we do so much higher quality, I feel.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Especially like something that I struggle with is like if I'm doing speed work and it says like 2 to 5 minutes in between rest, I'll think that like that 2 minutes is like just enough. Like that's where I need to like rest in between. I should probably do like 3 or 4 minutes and not just the minimum. But I can't stress enough like how important like my nutrition is along with like my sleep and everything, because if I'm not feeling my body properly, then I won't be able to perform at practice the next day.
No, I think that's a great point, and it's something that I think comes with maturity as well. I certainly did not have that successful of an athletic career myself, but I found that when I was in like middle school, high school, I was still, hanging with the boys between football practice, crushing like chocolate milk and fried chicken patties and that sort of thing. And that probably was not the best long-term nutrition strategy. There's definitely more reasons than that as to why I didn't really quote unquote make it as an athlete. But I'm sure that didn't really do me any favors, to say the least. Tell me a little bit about this process of, D1 sports and national sports at the same time. How have the two kind of like coincided to improve and better you both as a person and as an athlete?
I have a lot of support at like my university from like my coaches and my athletic trainers and strength coaches from just like everything that we do at USA also being implemented like at school. So like maybe Missy, my head coach, will add in a few like USA drills here and there, or just sit down and talk with me about like the certain tactics that we go over and make sure like I have them down, along with like my strength coach, like while I'm away at these camps, like providing me with like workouts to do and like body weight lifts because I don't have a gym because I'm training till 12 o'clock every day and I don't have a gym in my Airbnb. So they really help me out like with working together with like my schedule and like trying to be like the best like athlete that I can be while away, because like I'm in the thick of like my um training program right now for Maryland, but I'm here at U20 or women's national team training and trying to be at their level and going really hard in training. So then he kind of made something for me that like he knows how hard I'm training, so then he's gonna give me this so I don't overwork myself and try to kill myself while I'm also trying to be like the best player that I can be for these women. So they work really well together and I'm extremely grateful for both.
Yeah, that Nick, he's a real stud, isn't he? What a guy.
Yeah, he's not too bad.
We've had him on the podcast a few times. Can't say enough good things about him and that entire crew at Maryland. They certainly do an amazing job, and I'm glad that they've been able to help you out so much that way. And I love that importance too, again, on the collaborative side of things, everyone coming together for the betterment of you. And I think that's the experience that we should strive to have, or we should aspire to have, for every athlete that we work with. Is the more that we all as professionals can work together and collaborate for the betterment of you, the better our job is, but also the better the outcome is for you. And I don't care if that's, head coach, assistant coach, PT, AT, Chiro, strength coach, sports scientist, whatever the title is. I think the more that we all work together for you, the better off you're going to be. And I think the times that we don't work together and collaborate together, we're ultimately doing you a huge disservice, because we know how much time you put in to get where you are. We know how much you've sacrificed to get where you are. And if we can't, put our egos aside for 2 minutes and work together to get the best for you, then we've ultimately just done you a huge disservice, in my opinion.
Mhm. Yeah, I cannot say it again, like how much like them just being understanding and working together and like knowing like how hard we're gonna train. So like it's okay if you can't go to a gym and deadlift and bench press. It's okay to just do like a body weight lift instead. So for them to just be like understanding and like really supportive of me and like the process, along with like my teammates too, because there's a lot of Terps that do USA field hockey. So if it wasn't for them, I don't think we would be as successful as we are.
Yeah, you're in good company, and I think that's absolutely essential. But as you've been talking, there's anytime anyone becomes successful at something, and I like to think that you're incredibly successful at what you're doing, but there's always a cost to success. So, in your case, it sounds like you had to give up a lot of time earlier on in your life to train and put more time in. And you've taken things like sleep and nutrition and all these other essential elements seriously, and that's probably cost you a lot of different high school experiences that you might have gotten if it wasn't for all this, right? Like there's always a cost to success, so to speak. And it sounds like for you, training and getting here was the priority, and we might have missed out on some different fun things in high school in order to get here. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. So I made the decision to graduate high school early and go to the University of Maryland a semester early. So I was a freshman, but like not really. I was considered a gray shirt. So I missed out on like my entire senior year, and I missed out on prom because I was at a USA training camp. I missed out on like sports awards and like all the fun stuff you do as a senior. But if I had to do it all over again, I would, because now I can say that like I missed prom because I was training with like the USA national team, and I missed this because I was at Maryland training, working really hard and surrounding myself with people that have the same goals. So yeah, I did miss out on a lot, and it kind of made me like a little bit upset to see like all my friends having like a good old time, and I'm out here like busting my butt at 6 a.m. every morning. But it's all for a purpose, and it's all for my end goal. So if I had to do it all over again, I would.
Trusting the process and staying true to the path that you're on, and recognizing again that success requires you to give up something. And that's true in any walk of life, any sport, anything that you're pursuing. You have to give up something to get to that higher ground of life. And I think that's, why some people don't get there, unfortunately, is some people are not willing to make that transaction and not willing to make that sacrifice. And that's okay at the end of the day. You just have to be upfront and honest with yourself and recognize, like, am I in this and am I willing to do what it takes? If the answer is yes and you go all in, like, I think if you do the work, you're probably going to succeed. But understand that, like, there's always an opportunity cost to things.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of like self-reflecting, like, do I really like want to do this and put like my full like effort into this and like make the sacrifices that I need to like achieve my end goal? And for me, that was never like, I never second guessed my choice and I never second guessed my decision. But I know it's a lot of like really thinking hard on like, I really thought hard on like if I should gray shirt and like leave Del Mar early and go to Maryland. And like when I was at Maryland, I also went and played in pro league with the national team, so I wasn't really there either. I was traveling a lot. So you definitely have to like have some deep conversations with yourself and also like your loved ones, and like, am I really going to do this? Am I going to make this decision? Like whatnot. And I definitely made the best one.
That's what it's all about at the end of the day, right? Like living a life with no regrets, and being able to look back at it and say, like, hey, I did the right thing. And I think that's what we're all after here. What kind of advice or insight do you offer to like that next generation? I think we've talked about that a few times as we've gone throughout here, about how there's like, the next group of field hockey athletes, or, to a certain extent, you mentioned Jordan earlier, to a certain extent, she's going to be right by your side here not too long at Maryland. What kind of advice and insight do you offer to like that next group of field hockey athletes?
Yeah, I would offer the advice like, don't get tired of like doing the basics, like when it's field hockey related. Like, yeah, you might be able to hit the ball really hard or you can do like these crazy skills, but don't forget that like receiving the ball and like being able to pass to like your teammate is also like extremely important. So when I work with the younger girls at like Shorebirds, I like always emphasize like, don't get tired of doing the basics, because they're just as important as being able to rip a reverse shot in like the upper 90s and like the corner of the goal. And then just for kind of like the older girls, like, don't be afraid to like reach out and like ask for like, I don't know, advice, or like, hey, do you want to come out like to the field with me today? Or do you want to like run, lift, do all this stuff, and like keep working really hard even when no one's watching, because it's going to take you really far.
I think that's great advice. I mean, the first point you made there about the simple things and doing the simple things really well. We talk about that all the time across the spectrum of, pretty much every topic we've covered, whether it's PT related, strength and conditioning related, athlete related, performance development, whatever it is. If you do the simple things really, really well and don't make mistakes, it's really hard to beat you as a person, as an athlete, and so on that way. So, really sweating those small things and making sure you're dialed in, right? I think about like the first my mind goes to is like professional basketball, reading about stories of people like Steph Curry, Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, those kind of folks who have literally taken the same shot thousands and thousands and thousands of times, and they still kept taking that same shot. They didn't settle for it. They didn't say, well, I'm good enough at it now. I've done 1,000 reps or I've done 10,000 reps. It's no, like, we're still not satisfied. We still need to do more. We still need to practice it. We still need to ingrain that skill and really hone in on it. And I think your other piece too, on advice to just connecting with other people and trying to work together with other people, I really want to echo that point. I mean, that's how I've been able to get where I am today, from a variety of standpoints, is connecting with people, asking people questions, asking people if we can work together on stuff. And, sure, some people are going to say no, and that's okay. You can't let that, crush your like self-esteem train or anything like that. Like, not everyone is going to say yes to you, and that's okay. But the more you ask, the more opportunities I think you're going to be presented with as you progress throughout your athletic career and even beyond athletics, because I personally feel like sports teaches you so many invaluable skills that you will never get anywhere else in life. And I think that honing in on athleticism from a young age can set you up for such a like satisfying and fulfilling life for the remainder of your time.
No, I agree with that 100%. I think the lessons that I've learned from sport have like really like propelled me to like become not only like more mature, but like know like kind of like what I want to do like for the rest of my life, and like how I can like help like others around me. Because being a teammate is extremely important, and being a good one at that is very like key to having like team success. So I agree with that. And if you have like the resources around you, like just take advantage of them. And like you said, the worst thing they can say is like no, and like not support you through it, but you never know.
You never know. That's right. Josie, I feel like we've covered so much relating to your personal journey on where you're at now. Where's the future taking you? What's next for Josie?
Well, what's next is I'm coming up on my sophomore year of college and my sophomore field hockey season. So hopefully big goals in sight for Maryland field hockey, whether that's a Big Ten championship or a national championship. We will see. We're the only ones who can control that, but also just continuing to play with the US team, and hopefully coming down to Charlotte a lot and seeing what they're going to do post Olympics and where we're heading. So hopefully there's a lot in sight, and not going to stop until I can get there.
Can't stop, won't stop. I love that. And the other thing that shouldn't stop is I feel like people should help you out and support you a little bit on your journey to get to where you need to be. So for people listening who might want to support you in any way, how can they help you out? Whether that's, I think there's like an NIL store and different things set up that way. Talk me through how people can help you out.
Yeah, so I think first thing that comes to my mind is just like supporting like where I came from. So supporting Del Mar Field Hockey and supporting Shorebirds Field Hockey and the Athlete Academy and all the people that got me to where I am now. And then just kind of spreading the word of field hockey out there, getting the attention it deserves. And then along with NIL, I think giving me any opportunity, I'll take it. I was actually sitting in my Airbnb yesterday, just DMing a lot of companies like Drip Drop, because I sweat an excessive amount and I need electrolytes. So I was like, please help me. I need Drip Drop to sponsor me or make me an ambassador or something. But definitely if you have any deals for me, or if you want me to be a part of your, I guess, brand or company, I'd be willing to do it no matter what. But I'm definitely open to any opportunity.
For sure, for sure. So we'll link to, I feel like Instagram would probably be the best way for people to contact you. We'll probably link to that in the description below.
Yeah, sounds good.
Is there anything we missed as we were chatting today, Josie, or any other closing thoughts or remarks that we didn't get you, that you didn't have the opportunity to share as we were chatting today?
Nothing really. No, I just really appreciate you coming back. I feel like I haven't seen like the Athlete Academy or all of you guys in like a long time. So I just really appreciate you guys like reaching out and seeing how I'm doing, especially you, Dan.
For sure, for sure. Josie, it is always a pleasure. I really appreciate your time, and I'm so glad that we're able to put this together and chat about your backstory and where you're at now. I'm looking forward to seeing where you continue to, soar to as far as the new heights you're able to achieve over the next year and beyond. And looking forward to chatting again soon.
Thanks.